Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be a great episode with Zac Griffith of Summit Productions. And we're going to cover a lot of ground today, and it's always great to talk with Zac. And I know a lot of you follow him on his Instagram and on his YouTube channels, and I encourage you to do so. There's some great content in there. And we're going to get down to the nitty gritty with Zac on this podcast. And before we get to that, I want to point out a few things. I hope you guys are taking advantage of the sponsors of the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. And that sounds kind of bad, taking advantage. I want to say taking advantage of the offers that they're giving you as the J. Scott Outdoors podcast listeners. For instance, did you know that if you go to phonescope.com and you order Phonescope, any of their Phonescope adapters or any of their accessories, that you automatically get a 10% discount just by using the J. Scott promo code? As well as if you go to Utah Hydrographics and you want to get anything dipped, you get a 10% discount. And then there's certain large ticket items that your discount, if you listen to the following commercial in this podcast, you'll hear that. But you get great discount at Utah Hydrographics using the J. Scott Outdoors promo code. Guys, Outdoorsman's 10% off all the products at the Outdoorsman. So all you have to do is call up the Outdoorsman's or go online and enter the J. Scott promo code, or just call them up and say, hey, I want to use the J. Scott promo code. I want my 10% discount. Those guys at the Outdoorsman's have unreal optics. They're the optics authority. They know everything there is to know about optics of all kinds. And they have great accessories, tripods, bino adapters, backpacks, walking sticks, you name it. They've got incredible selection. And then Wilderness Athlete. All you have to do is use the J. Scott promo code. You get 10% off everything at Wilderness Athlete. Also, Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines, they're doing a drawing July 15th. They are going to be picking one name out of a hat, and that person is going to get a $1,500 Swarovski credit through the Outdoorsman's in Phoenix. So if you win that, you automatically get credited $1,500 towards any Swarovski product. All you got to do is go to westernhunter.net/J. Scott, and you'll be prompted to enter your email address. They've promised me they're not selling your email address. They're not going to just bombard you with junk mail. But all you have to do is enter your email address, and they're going to be giving a $1,500 credit away. Also, GoHunt.com Insider has been the title sponsor of my podcast from the beginning. And if you use the J. Scott promo code when signing up, you're automatically going to get a $50 KUIU gift card. And who doesn't want to get a $50 KUIU gift card? GoHunt.com Insider has absolutely the best filtering 2.0 system, which gives you all the state draw odds information, all the harvest data. You get also, as an insider, you get a chance to win the monthly giveaways. And I mean, they gave a $22,500 Dall sheep hunt away. They've given antelope hunts away, mule deer hunts, elk hunts. They gave two Go Hunt Insider Insider members Coos deer hunt with Dar Colburn and myself, 2 spots. And all you have to do is be an insider member. Once you sign up, you're automatically entered in the drawing every single month. And I just want to make sure you guys know that you can absolutely take advantage of the offers that these great sponsors of my podcast are doing. So I hope you're doing that. A couple other things I want to bring to your attention, one of which is on the GoHunt.com website, and you can just go to GoHunt.com and you can click to the section that's talking about, let's see here. It's called The Life. And if you click on The Life, it's drawing to win a 2016 Colorado uh, uh, mule deer tag. And $25, you can win a hunt of a lifetime. All you have to do is be in the drawing. They give a couple tags away for the Colorado Mule Deer Association has two governor's tags available this year. One is a raffle tag and one is a live auction tag. Neither tags require the winner to be present. So obviously you can pay high dollar and buy the governor's tag, or you can buy for $25, you can buy a ticket that goes in obviously in the drawing, and you have a chance to hunt mule deer all over the state of Colorado. And who doesn't want to spend $25 for a chance to win a hunt of a lifetime and also support conservation? If you're interested in purchasing tickets, you can go on gohunt.com under the life section and find the information there where to enter the drawing for mule deer. That drawing is going to be held July 23rd, 2016 at the Colorado Mesa University Ballroom. And if you want to go to the event, it's $85 a person or $150 a couple. But check out gohunt.com for the links to where you can sign up to have a chance to win. Also, like we did last year, I want to make sure that you guys are aware about the Arizona Big Game Super Raffle. You can buy for $20, you can get a chance at an antelope, $5 black bear, $20 buffalo, $10 Coues whitetail, $25 desert bighorn, $25 elk, $5 for javelina, $5 for mountain lion, $25 for mule deer, $10 for the turkey tag, $10 for the optics package, and $20 for the New Mexico elk hunt. So all you have to do is go to ArizonaBigGameSuperRaffle.com, and the mail order deadline is July 8th, 2016. All orders must be received by this date. And you can actually go on and order through the mail, or you can do it online. Online sales in July 10th, 2016, 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can literally go on ArizonaBigGameSuperRaffle.com and order your tickets right online. You can pay with the credit card. And I can tell you, Dara and I have been fortunate to guide the Arizona Big Game Super Raffle Desert Bighorn Sheep Hunter, I believe 5 years. And in those 5 years, we've taken guys that have just bought a ticket or two. It's not like the guys were taken by, 20,000 tickets. This is, everyday Joes that spent $25 on Desert Bighorn through the Arizona Big Game Super Raffle and have won a 365-day tag that they can hunt the whole time. And the mule deer, you can go hunt the Arizona Strip. It's just like a governor's tag. The elk tag, you can go hunt. It's just like spending, $250,000 to $400,000 to go hunt, just like someone that spent that kind of money. And all the money goes to conservation. And it's a great cause. I encourage you guys, go to Arizona Big Game Super Raffle and order your tickets. That covers it on my end. The waters are finally clearing here in Colorado, and the float fishing season is right around the corner. I've been diligently working on getting in really good shape. I've been covering a lot of trails around here in the Carbondale, Colorado area where I'm live in the summer, and I have the fortune of working out at 6,000 to 12,000 feet. And so after another 60 days, I'll be ready for my elk hunt there in Utah. And I encourage you guys to, hit the trail this summer and really get in shape and hit the gym. And you're going to get some great tips here from Zac Griffith on diet, on nutrition, on weightlifting, on shooting your bow and some of the tricks, tuning your bow, and some of the tricks that he's learned. And it's just an exciting time for us hunters. I would like to encourage you guys to follow me on Instagram at JScottOutdoors. I would encourage you guys to use the hashtag JScottOutdoors or JScottOutdoors podcast on your Instagram. I love seeing that hashtag used, and I love getting the messages. If you'd like to send me a message through Instagram or through Facebook, JScottOutdoors Facebook, that would be great. Also, emails. We're going to do a couple of episodes coming up here that I'm just going to be answering questions. You can send your questions, please, to jscottoutdoors@gmail.com, and I look forward to responding to all of those questions. And I do have to say one thing. There's a guy that has said that he's sent me 4 email messages and that I have not responded, and I have responded each time. I don't know if my message is going into your spam or your junk mail, but you're asking me about Coues deer hunt and why I love Coues deer so much and why people fall in love with Coues deer, and I have responded several times. And if I don't get a message back from you, I'm going to cover that in an upcoming episode here. But please don't think that I don't see your message, because I do, and I have responded every single time. You've got something on your end that's not allowing the message back, I think. So jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. Send me whatever questions you have. I'm going to have some episodes where I just answer them myself, and then I'm going to have some guests on, and we'll all answer your questions. So send me the questions. Keep working out. Keep shooting your bows. Keep getting everything all dialed in. And I know guys are running strings of trail cameras, and they're out glassing big basins. And, we're right into the part of the season here, starting July 1st when the antlers on the deer and elk, are taking shape. And this is the time of year that we all love. So make sure you support those sponsors, and let's get right to the episode with Zac Griffith. Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got Zac Griffith of Summit Productions. Zac, how you doing?
Awesome, man. Great to be back.
Yep, got great feedback from the first podcast episode that you were on with me. And first and foremost, Zac, what's been going on with you since we last talked? I mean, I know you got married. I got to meet your lovely bride up at the Western Hunting Expo up in Salt Lake City. And what's going on with you, bud?
No, it was awesome to meet you officially. I mean, you don't sound 6'5" on the radio or on your videos, but when I met you, I was like, man, this guy's a monster. It was cool to finally, the social media phenomenon that we all have these relationships and friendships, but we've never actually physically connected. And so, seeing you and shaking your hand and just, shooting the breeze was actually really fun. And thank you for the marriage stuff. That was been a crazy year. Lots changed, and I feel like I'm in a good place, and I feel like that Rocky and I have a really a nice synergistic relationship when it comes to hunting and training, fitness, and stuff. Like we're very much on the same page, and I think we've got a lot of fun experiences coming. App season has been really flat. I haven't drawn hardly anything. I did pull a late tag for elk in Arizona. Wasn't really a premium tag, but I wanted to go for opportunity. And then other than that, I haven't drawn anything, and I have a lot of points in Nevada, Utah. It's just been kind of a downer that way, but, I'll always fill in the gaps with general tags and hopefully have a good fall.
Yeah, for sure. So the Arizona tag you have is one of those late archery elk seasons. I assume it's one of those November tags?
It's a rifle tag.
Oh, it's a rifle. Okay, rifle.
Yeah.
So a late elk rifle hunt. So the timing of those seasons, what is that? The last part of November, first part of December?
Correct. Yeah, Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll get in there Tuesday or Wednesday, have a Thanksgiving on the mountain, and then hopefully, I'm a long range guy, so I definitely chose that loan or that tag for a reason, and I want to get in there and have fun with it. So we'll definitely look and be selective, but we've only got 4 or 5 days. So my dad drew it as well. He's the priority. He just built a gun, so we'll try to knock him one down and then maybe stumble onto something real big. You never know.
Yeah, you never know on those late hunts. I haven't guided those late elk hunts in many years, but I always remembered it seemed like Thanksgiving was always the season always started the Friday right after Thursday. Thanksgiving's always on Thursday, and seems like that season always started the next Friday. And I can remember spending a lot of times, Thanksgiving Day, eating a quick meal and, jetting up to the mountains. And, some of the times we just had Thanksgiving dinner in our camp and our hunters were already there. And those late hunts, can be extremely rewarding. And at the same time, I found them to be frustrating in the fact that, for me, it's either you're in them or you're not in them.
Exactly.
You've either found the place where the bulls are at and where they're hanging. And, once you do that, you may look at 50 bulls in a season, a 7-day hunt. But if you're not in the pockets where they're at, it can be difficult, and maybe you can only see, a couple bulls the whole time.
Yeah, and they move, and they're never consistent year after year. I mean, there's general areas, but like you said, there's pockets. And it's amazing how such a big, robust animal can just get swallowed up in the cedars and in the timber. It's fascinating to me how they just disappear. So, yeah, it's a fun hunt. It's late in the year, usually winding down and a little bit where I'm usually in just tip-top shape. So we're going to cover a lot of country. We're big glassing fanatics, so we're just going to get high, set up the tripods, and just kill the mountain apart. So I'm always excited about those types of hunts. I think they're fun, nice change of pace.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems as though, in a lot of the Arizona units, if you can find those, kind of those dark northeast facing slopes, some of the thicker timber, thicker brush, manzanita, that, you can find those bulls. And I know that, in other states as well, those late season bull tactics, a lot of times if you can go into those deeper canyons, where they've got quite a bit of shade and feed, where they don't really have to move a lot, you'll usually find a pod of bulls. And especially, you might find, as soon as you find one bull, you probably find a group of 5 or 6 bachelor bulls.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you can compare them and pick through sort through the inventory.
Yeah. You mentioned your dad built a rifle. I'm curious what rifle you're going to use for the hunt, and what rifle did he build? And was it specifically for this hunt, or just a general rifle that he was building for elk hunting?
My dad wanted a real general rifle that's just versatile for coos, deer, all the way up to elk, and so he went with a 300 Win Mag. He bought a Winchester. It's an ultralight stainless series. I'm not sure what it's called exactly, but beautiful gun, super thin barrel, thin stock. He's putting one of those new Vortex Razor HD scopes on top of it. And I think, with a good turret and a custom hand loads that we'll build for it, I'm sure it'll be a 1,000-yard gun. For most animals, and elk maybe 750, 800. I shoot a 300 Ultra Mag built by Alliance Custom Armory. The gun is a carbon monster. It's carbon-proof research barrel, carbon Macmillan stock. It's a lightweight. It's a hammer. It's absolutely the coolest gun I've ever had, and it's got a dual trigger on it, set super light, and I've got my first-gen Vortex Razor HD scope on top of it, which weighs like 14 ounces, so it's kind of contradictory to build a carbon rifle and then throw a 1-pound scope on it with those big rings. But it's just got a big tube, lots of light, and it's been very, very reliable. So My setup for my gun is awesome. And this year we bumped up to a 220 grain bullet, just because of a higher ballistic coefficient and also downrange retained energy. We've been shooting 180 grain Sirocco's hand loads for the last 4 or 5 seasons, and they've never let me down. But at long range, the energy dissipates quickly, and I don't think they expand fully at lower energy levels. Whereas with these softer pointed bullets we're looking at now and stuff, we feel like we're going to have a lot better downrange impact and energy and stuff like that. So just tinkering around. I mean, it hasn't been broken, but we're still trying to fix it, you know.
Right on. Yeah, it's always the search for trying to get better. And that leads me to one of my first questions that I want to talk to you about on this podcast episode is I know you're big into archery. I want to talk to you about your archery setup from the past and to its current stage. But before that, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your love for archery and the amount of arrows you shoot and time you spend, given a little bit of background with your love for archery.
You know, I wasn't a bow hunter until I moved to Arizona. I moved in to North Phoenix, Glendale area, and you'll laugh when you hear this, but my neighbor was Matt Lillenquist, and he's an accomplished archer. He's a guide, a sheep nut, absolute one of the most successful hunters I've ever met in my life. And he was a PSE pro, still is. And, you know, as a neighbor, I was pretty cocky, thought I was a good hunter. And then I met Matt and realized I didn't know anything. And so with bow hunting especially, you know, as a rifle hunter, I knew how to glass. I was in shape. I could cover country and, you know, kill deer. But I didn't learn how to hunt, quote unquote, until I bow hunted. And Matt was a huge mentor of mine because not only was he ultra successful, but he's also very selective. I mean, Matt's one of those guys that'll draw a unit 10 tag and he'll hunt 12, 13 days and not knock an arrow because he wants to kill a 400-inch bull, and he's willing to pass a 385 without any hesitation to get there. And I learned a lot about his discipline and self-control. I watched him shoot. He helped me shoot, got me set up with the PSE first generation X-Force, loved the bow. And I think without Matt, I don't think I ever would have bow hunted, or if I had gotten into it, I would have gotten off on a different set of tracks and probably taken a different course, you know. So fortunately, I was, you know, just kind of birthed into the industry by what I feel was one of the best bow hunters that's ever, you know, lived. And he'll never tell you that because of his personality, but the guy's amazing. He just gets it done. So that was in Arizona, and then obviously hunting desert muleys. You know, you have 60, 70 days a year in Arizona to hunt them over the counter. I lived North Phoenix, so I was right on the fringe of the city. I could drive my Razor out of my garage and be in the desert in about 10 minutes, so I was hunting morning and night from basically 2010 on, and just covering country and learning how to hunt and learning how to harvest animals and just growing my skill sets, but also my addiction and passion for bow hunting. And it's translated, you know, back here to Utah and for numbers of different species. But Arizona is the reason I'm a bow hunter, and I feel like it's what cultivated the passion and the drive for it. And I'll tell you right now, I'm coming back this January. I'm going to spend a weekend or two and go backpacking into some sheep country and look for deer and just enjoy the weather and enjoy, you know, the memories that I used to have out there.
That's fantastic. How has your archery setups, as you've gained more knowledge, how have you progressed from maybe a mindset from before, or are you at the same place you were when you started? I'm curious how the, you know, transformation of learning archery and really diving into it like you have. You know, I'm just curious how your setups have changed as you've learned over the years different things, and how maybe your philosophies and such. Sure. Where were you then? Where are you now? And how does that, you know, differ?
Well, when I started my first bow, you know, I was all about IDO. I wanted the fastest bow I could find. Speed. That was the deal. And I would shoot a light arrow, a really low spined arrow, and it would just just zipping. I had a hunting arrow that was flying at like 325 out of my X-Force. Then my next bow was an Omen, and then an Omen Pro and an Omen Max, and I just kept shooting those hyper-aggressive, super fast, dual cam PSE bows, and I did really well with them. I mean, it's funny to say this, and anyone that knows a PSE, they're the amazing bows. Are ultra lightweight, but a dual cam, Omen is not an easy bow to shoot, especially for a beginner. I learned on a first gen X-Force, so needless to say, I broke a lot of arrows launching them and jerking it took me a while to dial it in. It's not a very forgiving bow, but it's a lethal bow and it's accurate and everything. So, but the first evolution was slowing my arrows down and building a stiffer, heavier arrow that released higher kinetic energy. I feel like a heavier, stiffer arrow is a lot quieter off the string, stabilizes better. It does better with different broadheads. It seems like it tunes a lot easier. They're a lot lower maintenance as far as just, a big Lincoln log arrow. It seems like the speed is compromised, but, anything over 280, 290 is still screaming, and it's so fast. And if you can shoot a 500 grain arrow at 290 feet per second, you're creating some substantial kinetic energy. You're over 100 pounds, which downrange, even at 100 yards, my block, I'll shoot through my block all the time with that setup. So that's been the evolution as far as my gear goes, is just backing off on the speed, backing off on the ego. I shot a Matthews Safari, which is an Africa edition bow. It's an 86-pound limb bow. We were shooting a 525 grain arrow over 300 feet per second out of that. And I realized really quickly that 85 pounds on your shoulder is not good. I actually have rotator discomfort to this day from when I shot that bow. And I had a lot of guys tell me, man, you don't need to pull that back. I draw 29.5 inches, so I have plenty of draw length. I back down. I'm always going to be shooting 70-pound bows now, because you don't need to be an ego nut, which obviously comes naturally to me. But I had to back off on the ego and say, dude, I don't even like to shoot this bow. And it was nothing against the bow. It was just, I don't need 85 pounds. I just don't need it. I can kill stuff with 60 pounds. That's the bows and the technology has evolved to a level where, the stuff that we have even at 50 and 60 outperforms stuff from 10 years ago at 70, 80. So, just back off on the ego, build the stiffest, heaviest arrow you can, keep it around that 280 to 300 feet per second range. Shoot your bow religiously. Most of the mornings, I shoot my bow in my house. I just set my block up about 5 feet away, chest height on top of a stool, and I just launch arrows into it. You just shoot your center pin and you just hit it dead center. It's a little unnerving at first shooting an arrow inside of the house, but I've done it for years. And Matt Lillenquist taught me that. You shoot on a couch cushion, and that way you can just get your muscle memory dialed. You can work on your shot sequencing, your anchor points, your breathing. All of that stuff has to become second nature, and the only way you're going to attain that is through repetition. And so we're not always able to go to the range every day, but that doesn't mean you can't shoot your bow and get all that stuff dialed. The range is where you just work on your confidence. That's where you build your confidence in your belief system and learn your capacity to, your capabilities. You learn your distances and your comfort zones, but you build the muscles, you build the foundation at home or in your backyard or whatever.
I have known the owners of the Outdoorsman's in Phoenix for over 20 years. They are the authority on optics and hunting gear. Outdoorsman's is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods, mounting accessories, and pack systems for all hunters. Their customer service is the best in the business. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the J. Scott promo code to receive 10% off any Outdoorsman's products.
That's great stuff. Let's take a quick break here.
GoHunt.com Insider is by far the most valuable tool a Western hunter could give themselves. GoHunt.com Insider are the industry leaders and number one source for Western hunting for a lot of reasons. GoHunt.com Insider have changed the game for how hunts and hunting information are found. Within a matter of minutes using Filtering 2.0, you'll be able to filter by state, species, residency, odds of drawing a tag, specific hunting dates, and harvest success percentages to find the hunts that fit exactly what you're looking for. If you are a guy that applies across the West or just in your home state but want to find some new opportunity, there's no better way to do it than using GoHunt.com Insider. As an exclusive offer to my listeners, if you sign up for a GoHunt.com Insider membership for $149 a year and use the promo code JScott at checkout, you'll receive a $50 KUIU gift card. Head on over to GoHunt.com/insider and get yourself the most valuable membership a hunter could have.
Okay, Zach, I'm going to ask you some more questions about your setup, but you talked about a few things there that I've got a couple follow-up questions. One is, for the listener out there that is just getting into archery, is maybe not as advanced in archery, can you go through a few fundamentals on, shooting form and things that you do with your own shot process and what have you, of, making sure your feet are the same, shoulder, just go through the technical aspect of some of the tips for shooting form.
Yeah, for me, you're asking the wrong guy, because my form is hideous. I feel, especially from experienced tournament type guys, I'm a hunter first. I bought a bow because I wanted to hunt more. So I've never prided myself in being an amazing archer. I'm more just persistent and don't give up and get lucky. And that's really what it is. I just work harder and get luckier. But as far as shooting your bow goes, my first recommendation off the top is go to your pro shop and become an absolute magnet. Just sit there and just absorb and draw and learn and watch and digest information from other guys, from other shooters, watch their form, learn from the guys that have it figured out. It's the same thing with business. You ask a rich guy, how do you get rich? You don't go to a class, and you go to the source. And I've done that with archery. I learned from Matt. When I was in Arizona, Archery Club, the pro staff there, they know that I don't know anything about bows. They would teach me, and I would regurgitate a lot of the information. But the bottom line is I would go to them because they are the experts, and I would learn from them. So with form, you ought to go to a resource that's going to put you in the right direction, because form is very important. My form isn't perfect, but I'm comfortable, and I think that matters, infinitely over anything, because if you're forcing it or you don't feel natural, you're going to be a lot worse off than you are if you just kind of adapt for your own style. But like you said before, feet, stance, I don't really, it's kind of second nature for me now, but get comfortable, toes slightly out. You want to be solid and heavy. I always like, at some level, I don't know if I do this on purpose or if it's just natural, but I feel like my belly is forward and my back is arched. I feel like there's more of a balance between your butt sticking out, your belly sticking forward. I mean, your vertical, the vertical plane there, your belly offsets the butt. So you're, back and forth that way. When you draw your bow, I always like to push with my front hand and pull with my lat, my back muscle. I don't pull with my wrist or my tricep or my arm. I pull with my back muscle. So I pull very exaggerated over the top of my head, just because, one, I pulled heavy bows in the past, and I think that became second nature, but also because in the field, you'll notice, your first shot on an animal may be a week from the last time you shot, and it may be on the side of a timbered ridge, and you may not be able to pull back with your wrist or elbow. I mean, you've got to have that muscle built, and you've got to have that stability. So I like to just use a muscle that I know is not going to fatigue. It's going to be there. And honestly, your lat's 10 times the size of your arm muscles combined, and so you're able to pull back more smoothly, comfortably that way. Grip is critical with the bow. It's impossible to explain proper grip over a radio podcast. You have to go in and just meet somebody, have them hold your hand, jam that grip into there, and make sure you feel what it feels like to hold it properly. Very, very different than you would expect, and I think it surprised me when I started to feel when I got my grip dialed what it actually the end result was, what it felt like. It wasn't what I expected or anticipated. So, again, just to reemphasize, go to the source, go to your pro shops, become a sponge, mingle, talk with guys, ask questions. It's a very social sport. I think that's one of the coolest things about bow hunting is it's a brotherhood. So just become part of the team and be there and spend money and enjoy your time. And, we all have discretionary income, and so allocate as much as you can to the sport. The shop will appreciate you as a customer. You'll appreciate them as a resource, and you'll become a better hunter as a result. So
that's great advice there. Going to your current archery setup right now, what bow are you shooting? And I might ask, is this bow that you're going to be shooting this year, is it for deer, elk, everything? Or do you have a specific bow for deer, specific bow for elk? I'm kind of the mindset that, you probably just need to get your bow set up, that's your hunting bow, and kind of have a bow that works great for maybe deer and antelope, shooting long range, but you can also shoot an elk with it. Because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to own 3 or 4 bows. I'm curious what you're shooting, and give me your full archery setup right now.
Okay, I just got my new Hoyt Carbon Defiant Turbo. Literally within last month, I got it custom painted and all taken care of. So I'm shooting a Carbon Defiant. If you've never shot a carbon bow before, you need to experience it. Besides being ultra lightweight, the hand stock is ridiculously low. I don't know if it's just how the energy disperses or if there's damping qualities of carbon. They're just different. They're quiet. They're light, especially the Hoyt Carbon. They're amazing. They're the top end bows, and the price reflects that. They're not cheap, but I've loved shooting it. By far, it's my favorite bow I've ever had. I had a Carbon Spider Turbo last year. I shot the new the Aluminum Defiant this year. The Carbon Defiant is an awesome bow. I've got it set up at 70 pounds, 29.5-inch draw. I shoot a Spot Hog, Tommy Hog single pin slider. So I set my pin at 50 yards, and then I'm basically 10 inches high at 20 and 10 inches low at 65, 70. And I've been very good at just gauging yardages off of that. And then for long distance, you can always dial direct yardages with the slider. I'm a big fan of those. And I have gone to the 1 pin as opposed to a 3 or a 5 pin because even though I like having fixed pin options, I just feel like, I don't know if my eyes have changed, but my focus is dwindled, and I'm not seeing pins like I usually did. Even though I would use a smaller pin for my bottom diameter, for my anchor pin, I would still have trouble. I don't know. Focus is better for me with the 1 pin. So it's definitely something to consider if you're going to shoot a single pin sight. My arrow is an Easton FMJ injection. They just barely released a 280 spine. Last year I was shooting a 330 spine, and we had to cut my arrows extremely short. They were about 27 inches long just to make it stiff enough. But now that they've got the 280 spine, we're going to be able to shoot a normal, 30-inch arrow. It weighs about 500 grains on the dot with a 125 grain broadhead. I shoot a grave digger. It's a hybrid expandable. And I shoot the same arrow at every critter on the planet, whether it's a jackrabbit in the desert or a bull elk. I don't just, to me, your bow should be universal, and the speed isn't an issue. It's around 290 feet per second. It's cooking. Plenty fast enough for antelope and deer. The energy is sufficient for elk. Most importantly, my confidence with that bow will be the best because that's going to be my hunting bow. That's going to be my shooting bow. That's the bow I'm going to use from now on. Even for 3D, I'm going to use it because I don't see the point of punching paper if it's not a bow I'm going to be punching hide with. So it's literally my bow, and I don't want to change a thing with it unless I need to just for tuning purposes. But yeah, it's going to be my go-to all the way through the fall.
Okay, that's great. I've got a couple follow-up questions, but let's take a quick break before that.
Have you guys heard about PhoneScope? PhoneScope is a privately held company that makes custom-molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. Take digiscoping photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. PhoneScope is the future of digiscoping. Get yours now. Use the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope, that's PhoneSkope.com, or on Instagram at PhoneScope. Wilderness Athlete is committed to improving the health and quality of life for the outdoor athlete by providing field-tested, scientifically validated nutrition and sports performance products. Check them out at wildernessathlete.com and use the JScott promo code to receive 10% off any order.
Okay, Zac, my questions from your setup. I drew an archery elk tag in Utah. I drew the beaver archery elk, and I have not hunted elk myself. I've been guiding every September, and the last bull elk that I killed with my bow was 2006. So archery equipment has come a long ways.
Yeah.
My old bow, I had two Matthew switchbacks that I had set up that were identical. I ended up giving one of those years ago to my buddy Giannis Patelis, who's the producer over at the Meat Eater TV show. But once I found out that I drew the tag, I started shooting my Matthew switchback, and I don't know what it is about that bow, but it just shoots great, feels real comfortable in my hand, and I was urged by several of my buddies that the technology, they basically alluded to, you're in essence, Jay, playing golf with a wooden driver when everybody else is using, a metal driver. You really need to look at some of the new bows. The technology's come a long ways. With that being said, I've been vacillating back and forth between a single pin and multiple pins, and the concept of shooting a single pin slider to me it makes most sense to me. I've had several of my friends really discourage me from that, but from my perspective, shooting a bull elk, my idea is to go with a single pin slider, set the single pin on 35 yards and keep it there. And then if I had to shoot, I don't shoot, and I haven't been shooting, so I've been loving getting back into the archery game and shooting every day, and it brings back old memories where I used to shoot quite a bit. But and I'm kind of getting a little off task here, but back to the single pin. Most of the elk that I've shot have all been around that 30-yard range, and 30, 35, 25, kind of close range. I'm a caller. I love calling elk, and lately, so my friend Brian Remza, who I believe shoots for Elite Archery. Anyway, to make a long story short, he had an extra Elite Energy 35, and he's like, why don't you shoot my Energy 35 and see how you like it before you go and buy a new bow. And so I brought it up here to Colorado with me, and I've been shooting it, and it's got a multiple pin slider. I think it's a 5-pin multiple, and it's got a slider. But it's funny that you say that your focus is a little bit different than it was maybe 5 years ago. And one of the things that I've noticed with my own eyes is when I get out at 40, 30, 40, 50, 60 yards, to me, I can't seem to focus on the pin as well as I used to back. I shot a lot of archery in my late 20s and mid 20s and early 30s, and it seems like now I'm 43. I don't think my eyesight is quite as good, and so that kind of goes back to the single pin slider. I think my Matthews is set up with a single pin slider, and I seem to focus better. My question for you is, do you see a downside when you're saying you're 10 inches low at 30 and what'd you say, 10 inches high? Give me that again.
Yeah, it was with my last year's setup. It was at 20 yards, I was about 10 inches high, and at about 60 yards, I was 10 inches low. And that was this year. It'll be very comparable to that. And that's just, I want you guys. I mean, I don't actually go measure it. I'm just saying, in general. But I like the 50-yard range because I typically hunt spot and stock mule deer, and you and I both know that, a 30-yard shot on a spot and stock mule deer is very possible, but realistically 40 or 50 is probably going to be more likely. So that's kind of where I set that up as. But it's worked for me, and that's the key with anything. You've got to try all your options, and then you've got to say which ones are working, which ones aren't. And unfortunately, there's no cookie-cutter solution. You got to just go out and learn, and you've got to say, wow, I don't like shooting a multi-pin slider because I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
just do it.
I totally agree with you, and I think you bring up a good point that if you're hunting desert mule deer in your range, usually that you can get 50 yards. For me, elk is that 30-35 yard window is anything. My thinking is anything under that. All I have to do is know where 35 yards is when a bull's coming in, and anytime he steps inside of that window, I aim just a little bit low. Okay, and
exactly.
if he's just outside of that window, if my one pin is set at 35, I aim just a little bit high. Now, if he's out there at 55 yards, obviously I can move my slider and decide if I want to take that shot or not. But from speaking just specifically getting ready for this archery elk hunt, I just think that the 35, a single pin slider is the way that I'm going to end up going. And so it's interesting to hear you shooting a single pin slider as well. That gives me a little bit of confidence that, as much as you've shot and tinkered with stuff, that you're going with a single pin slider.
Yeah, and it's worked for me. My first one was a 3-pin, then I went to a 5, and then I went back to a 3, and then I'm shooting a single pin this year. But you remember too, your draw length is very long, and you're going to shoot super fast. I mean, you're always going to have a flat shooting, laser fast bow, just like Brian. I believe Brian's really tall. I think I've met him before, but if it's one of his bows, it's obviously a long draw. So you're going to have plenty of energy at 35 yards. I don't think at 20 yards you're probably 3 inches high is all. I'm sure if it's flat shooting. So I think you're getting to rock and roll with that setup. You're ready to rip. And I was going to tell you earlier, when your friends were telling you, you're playing golf with wooded drivers, Tiger Woods with wooden drivers is still going to outplay an average Joe with, brand new peen blades, So you're a good hunter. You're going to get those up top pin. Your Matthews would have been more than sufficient to do it. But heck yeah, if you have the time and energy and resources or access to a new bow, of course performance is going to trump, what was around. We don't know what was 10 years ago the best on the market, which the Matthews Switchback, I mean, that's probably the best-selling bow ever made, I would think. They're awesome. Everyone has them.
I mean, for me, it makes a great backup. It's nice to know that I have, 2 setups that are shooting great and, that I can pick up at any time and do well with. So from that standpoint, I feel good about it. I really am enjoying shooting archery again. I had forgotten how much, I'd kind of gotten away from shooting a lot and kind of gotten away from that feeling. And there's nothing like, well, I shouldn't say there's nothing like, you hit a tennis ball right in the center of the racket. It feels awesome. You hit a golf ball right on the screws and it just, feels great. And a perfectly executed, arrow release, is right up there too with feelings that, if you don't do it for a while, you kind of forget the euphoric feeling of shooting some good groups and, feeling good about, your arrow flight and how things are going. So for me, I've been re-energized, and, kind of unfortunately with the, fortunately and unfortunately both, with the situation that I have with, guiding elk hunters, and not drawing any tags across the West, archery has kind of taken a little bit of a back burner.
Sure.
But it's nice to be away from the sport enough that when I do get a tag, now I'm back to all in and, trying to relearn a lot of those things and, pick up the technical talk again like I used to know. So it's definitely been fun for me. One question I would have for you is, what weaknesses or faults do you see yourself creeping into with your shooting, and what do you notice with either your fellow friends or hunters or just people that you observe as far as weaknesses or faults that creep in over time with archery?
With me personally, my big obstacle, and I actually went to a great resource to find out how to offset it, is with my weight training. My hashtag or whatever is train hard, hunt harder. So I do train to hunt, but I also train to train. I love to lift. I love bodybuilding. I'm obsessed with dieting and getting leaner and bigger and rounder and fuller and all those things. And so I train with a purpose, and I train for an aesthetic end result. And when you're shooting a bow, muscle fatigue from weightlifting can absolutely affect your shooting and your confidence in your groups. That's been my obstacle from the beginning, Jay. It's just how do I balance my weightlifting with my bow shooting? Because, I do legs, cardio, or lift my legs every day of the week, 7 days a week, year round, never stop. So I'm always in shape, but I build my upper body for other reasons. I mean, there are some muscles that are used in bow hunting and other things and stuff, but in general, it's more for aesthetics. And I'm not going to give up weightlifting, and I'm not going to give up bow hunting, so I have to find a balance. But I went to the resource earlier, like I said. I talked to Cameron Haynes. I said, dude, you're pulling 90 pounds. You're shredded to the bone. How do you balance it? And he said it was super logical and absolutely like the simplest response. He goes, I try to shoot my bow before I lift weights, period. Which means I lifted yesterday at 5. That means today at 4. It's been 23 hours of rest, fatigue, or rest and recuperation. When are you going to be fresh to shoot your bow? Well, as far away from the gym as possible. So he shoots his bow right before, and if he can, he squeezes in when he can. But that's been my way of getting around that, is just trying to find a good time where I can shoot my bow where my muscles are not feeling fatigued and they're not feeling worn out. And that's been a trick. Now, when I'm hunting, it's funny because I'm not lifting. I shoot fine. But year round, I like being confident. If my rotator's sore because I did shoulders, holding that your front hand, you'll notice there's a lot more shake in it. It's not as stable. It aches. It's not as comfortable. So, just giving yourself some time to recover, but in between shooting. Another thing that I feel like a lot of guys do is they shoot too many arrows in a sequence. Matt taught me, shoot 3 arrows, set your bow down, walk to your block, pull your arrows, come back, reload, and shoot again. Because if you shoot 7, 8, 9, 10 arrows straight, your groups are going to just get wider, and your accuracy is going to deplete because you're wearing that muscle down. And remember, hunting, 90% of your opportunities are single shots, and they're not usually warm-ups. They're usually draw, cold, in a jacket, whatever, in timber. So it's always your first shots that matter most. And so I try to replicate hunting scenarios, and I'm not shooting 10 arrows in 45 seconds in the hunting field. I'm shooting 1 or 2 or maybe 3, and then I'm taking a break of 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes before I come back. And that's a really good way just to build your confidence and remind yourself to slow down. Bow hunting is not a high-paced thing. I think that's one of the things that I've been crappy at, is I'm way too aggressive, way too go. And you need to be more like Randy Ulmer and be willing to sit back on a buck for 13 hours straight waiting for the perfect opportunity, as opposed to forcing it and screwing up. So the same thing goes with shooting. In general, that's probably what I would say most guys mess up on. And the other thing I notice a lot of guys do is they just pick up their bow a week before season, shoot their block at 20 yards, and they say, I'm good to go. And then they throw a broadhead on it, and they assume that it's hitting where their field points are. That's disrespectful to the animal. I don't think it's, what's the word? I think it's irresponsible as hell to the sport and again, to your quarry. An animal deserves an ethical, clean kill, and so you owe it to the animal and yourself, because you're investing time and money into your hunt, to prepare and to know your equipment and to know that it's working and it's tuned and that it's accurate and that your confidence is there. A week before season, that doesn't cut it with bow hunting. It might work with rifle. You pull it out of the closet, shoot a rock at 400 yards and make sure it's on. But bows are finicky. They need constant nourishment. It's like a fly rod. You just have to know your rod. It has to become one with you. And if you're not shooting your bow year-round or at least months in advance of season, you're not going to accomplish that, and you're not going to be there. And if you do kill anything, you completely lucked out, because you don't deserve it, period. You've got to practice and prepare, know your gear and know your limitations, and know that when you put that pin on that deer's vitals, that you're going to hit him where you're holding. And whether it's a broadhead or a field tip, you need to know where your arrow is going. You don't assume, even with a mechanical, that your broadhead is going to fly the same as a field tip. It's not how it works. And if you haven't shot your broadhead that blocks hundreds of times pre-season, you're irresponsible, and you're going to have a rude awakening when you get to the field and your broadhead's 3 feet by at 50 yards. That stuff is tuning. It can all be taken care of in advance. But the bottom line is, punching paper with a field tip is not shooting your broadhead. So don't think one just because one is on, the other is too.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely great tips there. Let's take another break here.
Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they are open to whatever you can dream up. Choose from a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicles, steering wheels, fenders, dashboards, paint guns, fishing rods, cups, tripods, watches, knife grips, helmets for a local sports team or for your motorcycle, picture frames, mailbox, animal skulls, you name it, they can probably do it. Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turns them into something that looks fantastic and eye-popping. Give them a call and see what they can do for you, and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at utahhydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics. Whether you are interested in elk, deer, antelope, bighorn sheep, or moose, Western Hunter and Elk Hunter magazines will bring the adventure to your mailbox. These publications feature articles on the finest hunting gear, tips and tactics from experienced hunters, field judging trophies, glassing techniques, calling strategies, and much more. To become a more knowledgeable and skilled hunter, subscribe today. Go to westernhunter.net/JScott and enter your email address for a chance to win a $1,500 credit towards any Swarovski product.
Okay, Zach, couple more questions for you. I want to ask you about your diet. I know in the last episode we touched on it. And, drawing this elk tag in the beaver in Utah with as steep a mountain as it is, I've committed, this summer, since I got back from Mexico turkey hunting for the month, to really improve my diet. My wife's kind of a health nut as it is, and I've kind of just, I eat well, definitely in the evenings because she cooks for me. But, this summer, as far as, training and eating better, I've got probably about 10 pounds I'm probably 10 pounds heavier than normal. And I've been really working on, pretty, aggressive hiking. Fortunately, here in Carbondale, we're at 6,500 feet, something like that. But I have access to mountains all around me that are, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,000 feet. So diet and exercise for me is a priority right now, and you've got a great YouTube channel and an Instagram account where you talk about, lifting, you talk about exercise, you talk about diet. Specifically about diet, what are some things that guys can do to, lose weight and feel better, get stronger, from an advanced standpoint, and from a standpoint of maybe the guy out there that's not super hardcore but just wants to eat better? What are some of your thoughts?
Well, the first thing about dieting, and you got to look at it, and there's the best analogy, and it just came into my head one day, but it's very similar to financial stability. If you listen to a guy like Dave Ramsey, you've got to budget your money. You don't get rich and not knowing where your money's coming from and where it's going. The same thing goes with the caloric intake or nutrition. You can't say, why am I fat? You should know how many calories a day you need for your budget. You should know how much you're bringing in, how much you're spending. So your output is your exercise, your metabolism, your genetics, your training. Your input is how much food do you bring in. Then what types of food are you bringing in on top of that? Just like a budget. How much do I earn? How much do I spend? How much do I save? Basically with your diet, if you expect results, you're going to have to monitor it. Now, most guys they're all rolling their eyes. I'm not going to measure my food. I'm not going to weigh my food. Okay, well, you're not going to get the results you want, and you're going to talk about it after your season. Man, I wish I would have gotten in shape. Guys complicate it because they try to manipulate reality. They try to deceive themselves into thinking that taking a pill or taking a drug or doing a crash diet of starvation for a week, those things all are ultimate. They're going to get you to your end goal. Fitness is not a quick fix. I mean, most guys are 30, 40 years old and they've been out of shape for 20 years. You think you're going to get in shape in 6 weeks? It doesn't work that way. It's going to take years to build up, and it has to become a lifestyle. And it's hard for me because I'm a pretty blunt guy, and I offend people on a daily basis because I just tell them what I think. Now, should I filter that more? Perhaps, but what good does it do anyone to filter the truth? I feel like you need to know the problem. Now, you may take a personal offense to that because you're insecure or you're incapable of absorbing that information, digesting it, and making your own conclusions. Whatever. There's emotion involved. But logic is simple. You get X amount of calories a day. If you take in less than that, you're going to lose weight. If you take in more, you're going to gain. So for anyone out there that wants to lose weight, you better start tracking your food, where it's coming from, and how much you need. And the best thing for anybody out there is just get a simple app called MyFitnessPal. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not sponsored. This isn't a shameless plug. It's just an awesome resource and tool that stores and tracks your caloric intake. Whether you're at McDonald's and you want to know what a double cheeseburger is, you can add that in there. You can scan barcodes on different food products. You can enter in an apple. You can enter in a chicken breast. You can estimate weight or you can weigh the weight, all of that stuff. Just start tracking your food, tracking how long you're training, tracking your weight, and watching the adjustments. No two bodies are the same, and so what works for Jay doesn't work for Zach and vice versa. You have to figure it out on your own. It's one of the things I love about fitness. It's a level playing field. Some guys have better genetics, some guys have more money, some guys have a chef, some guys have better supplements, whatever. But you can't tell me that a guy in prison who's eating grits and garbage, who's stuck in a cell 23 hours a day, can't get absolutely shredded to the bone. They do it all the time. Anyone knows that. And vice versa. Lots of rich guys with tons of time, resources, tools, etc., are overweight because they don't have the work ethic. It all comes down to just a personal discipline, consistency, persistence, self-control, and accountability. I mean, it's grown-up talk, and I think that's when guys get so offended. Everyone wants to have a six-pack. I don't care who you are. Who doesn't want to look good and feel great? It's how it works. The problem is there's some compromises, there's some sacrifices that you have to make to get there. And part of that is the enjoyment of fatty, salty foods. You know, you have to realize your body only needs certain things. You need to eat for fuel, eat for a purpose, and get the emotion out of it. And trust me, we're all at different levels in the progression. And so don't go cold turkey and do my diet. Make incremental changes, you know, cut soda out for a couple of weeks, then start to eat whole foods, get away from processed foods, just stick with vegetables and fruits and the basics. And again, you can take it as far as you want to take it, or you can keep it as simple as you want to make it. I mean, most guys, just by eating a whole food diet, splitting up their meals from 3 a day to 6 or 7 small meals a day, drinking a ton of water, stretching and training at least 4 to 5 days a week, will see dramatic results, because that's a dramatic change. If I was to do that, I'd probably lose weight. I'd probably get weaker, because I have my nutrition and my fitness dialed to a completely different level where I'm measuring macros, I weigh my food. I mean, I'm trying to get body fat percentages down by 1.5% instead of 2. I mean, it's not calculated for me because I'm fascinated by it and I love it. But for everyone, it's different. So, you know, it's hard to just give you a really straight up answer to that question, because I think most guys just need to start the journey, start tracking their calories, start tracking their exercise, and then making adjustments going forward, listening to their body, listening to how they feel. If you feel good, it's working. So just keep doing, you know, reinforce that positive experience, positive feeling, positive recovery, growth, etc. And you'll grow dramatically. It just isn't something that's going to happen overnight.
For me specifically, I've been trying to cut out breads, cut out cheese, cut out, you know, mayonnaise, any of that kind of stuff. Are there any other things? And I know it's a lot more complex question, but I've been trying to eat, you know, meats, fruits, vegetables. Kind of going the paleo route. I'm not super like, I don't know if anal's the right word, but, you know, super detailed on it. But I definitely, you know, feel like cutting out the breads, cutting out the pastas, cutting out, you know, and eating more vegetables, more fruits, and more, you know, fish, chicken breasts, that kind of thing. Are there any other tips that you can give a guy like myself that's just trying to, you know, eat good?
No, those are all great things, and they're very simple to track. You're not measuring your potato. You're not weighing your potato. You're just eating a potato instead of half a French bread loaf, you know. You're sticking with a natural, a growing vegetable, as opposed to a processed, refined, loaded with salt and sugar product off of an assembly line. I mean, I don't understand why it's so complicated to people. I mean, you can't tell me a muffin is going to your body's going to take in a muffin the same way it's going to take in a cup of oats. The calories may be the same, but the oats are a raw, fibrous, nutritionally dense, again, natural occurring. There's no processing at all. You might smash them and roll them so they're easier to cook, but your body wants that. They don't want the processed stuff. Your mouth wants the processed stuff because it tastes good, and somehow it's tied to your brain in some type of stimulus where we actually feel some type of gratification or whatever. It's almost like an arousal at some level to enjoy food. So there's an emotional, it's an intangible response, whereas reality is your body's built to eat oats, greens, stuff that naturally occurs, because that's what cavemen, that's why I like the paleo diet. Paleo diet's actually very logical. We only eat what we're supposed to eat. If you're a deer, you eat grass because that's what's on the side of the hill. If you're a caveman, you're picking up nuts and berries and meat sparingly, maybe some roots here and there, like yams and stuff like that. But you're basically just eating off the land, and greens, fibrous greens. I mean, those are very logical, basic fundamentals to me in diet, and I can see why people do well with it, because it's what we're supposed to eat. We're genetically disposed, we're evolutionarily disposed to eat that way. So, it's this new processed stuff that's causing the epidemic of being overweight. So stick natural like you are. Cut sugar back as much as possible, especially refined sugars that are in liquid form sodas and stuff like that. You gotta monitor that as well. But if you just eat whole foods, you're going to be fuller. You're going to feel revived. You're going to like the way you feel. You're going to want to train. You're not going to be, it's like a hangover. Most people stop drinking the older they get if they don't like hangovers, because hangovers suck for the next whole day. It's not worth it to me. Drinking's not that cool that I want to be hungover the next day. I'd rather just, eat normal, go to bed and get up and train and do my normal routine. It's the same thing with food. You'll realize when you start eating very clean and healthy that you'll like the way you feel, and that's going to continually reinforce the behavior, because you're just going to get out of the rut of doing what's easier or maybe what you want to do and start doing what you should do. And I think, again, just take it at your pace. Don't try to eat the elephant with one bite, with, just one little bite at a time. It's going to take a while to get down that path, but it's definitely worth the journey. And don't compare yourself to anybody else, because it doesn't matter. All that matters is you and your personal results.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I've been eating eggs in the morning. My wife has made me these buckwheat pancakes that she freezes, and I just put them in the microwave. Been eating a lot of grapes, a lot of bananas, a lot of fruits. And for me, I went about a couple years eating this certain type of granola, and I just didn't realize it, but I was eating this granola basically every morning, and it had all kinds of sugar, and basically carbs and stuff. And, over a span of, a couple years of eating that consistently every morning, because why? It was easy. I just grabbed my little bag of granola and go about doing my work, but eat that. And, it's like a cow walking up to the feed pen and going to eat, if you feed them crap, they're going to gain weight. And so specifically, Zac, for breakfast, give me some things that you think that I should be eating with what I'm trying to do.
Training? Excuse me. It depends on your training. Are you training in the mornings or in the evenings?
I'm mainly training in the mornings, and when I say training, all I'm doing is doing extensive hiking, and of course my rowing season is about to start here. So for the next 60 days, I'll be rowing virtually every day. But I'm hiking, doing a morning hike every single day.
Cool. I recommend, if you can get a meal in before you train, always do. And then obviously post-training is the most critical meal of the day, because you're depleted. You need to replenish nutrients. You need to replace muscle glycogen, which is the sugar, the hydraulic fluid that makes your muscles pump and be hard. Those are the things that I would eat around, primarily, centered around your training sessions, whether it's pre or post. I personally wake up at 4:30 and go to the gym. I don't want to eat at 4:30 in the morning. I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat a cup of oats. So I train on an empty stomach, but by the time I'm done training at, 5:45, 6, I'm so hungry, I'm hypoglycemic, like I'm shaking. So I eat a big meal then, and then the rest of the day I just kind of nibble. I have my little meals spaced out. I always like to try to incorporate greens into each meal in some way, whether it's spinach or broccoli or whatever. I've been getting back on the green kick, and I feel great because of it. My digestion's regular. It's much more consistent. I feel like if you're digesting food, then you're obviously processing it properly. So, keep track of that stuff. Not to get too graphic, but you should know that should be very consistent, because your diet should be consistent. So, as far as eating goes, your granola was a great analogy. Granola, on the face or the surface, it seems healthy. It looks like nuts and berries and oats and different, complex carbohydrates. But like you said, they add sugars, they add sweeteners, they add fat, whatever. You got to be careful. You got to learn to read nutrition labels, and that's where that MyFitnessPal app will come in handy. Is it'll help you scan caloric intake, and you'll realize really quickly which foods are high in calories, and you'll start to say, wow, for 400 calories, I could have eaten, 5 or 6 apples, I think I'm just going to start eating 3 apples and just get rid of the granola. And either way, I feel like I'm more full. And you've got to learn that, and that's part of just experiencing it and going through it all. So I wouldn't change anything, especially it sounds like you're progressing. It sounds like you're doing really well.
It is amazing when you, it is amazing when, it's only been probably 30 days now that I've been eating better, and it is amazing to know that I'm feeling better and see the progression. And I have a feeling over the next 60 days I'll see a lot bigger progression. But okay, specifically, give me breakfast ideas, or tell me what you eat for breakfast.
So I train early. So post-workout, which is 5:30 or 6, is when I eat my breakfast. Now, it's going to sound crazy because I eat for fuel. I don't eat for emotion. What I eat for breakfast is I usually, depending on which body part I do, but I usually eat about a cup of brown rice or white rice, and I usually eat 10 egg whites. So 50 grams of protein, 50 to 100 grams of carbs. That's my breakfast. And I put some cinnamon in my rice, or some no-cal sweeteners or whatever. You could put raspberry preserves. I mean, there's all sorts of things you could do. But I just keep it. I eat very bland, basic food. I use rice because it's the white rice is high glycemic index. It absorbs quickly into your bloodstream and replenishes your muscle glycogen. Like I said, it's quick for recovery. But that's what I eat for breakfast. I mean, it's like right around 600-700 calories. My breakfast is with my protein shake that I drink post-workout. But throughout the day, and if you're not training first thing in the morning, I would just try to do each meal with a portion of carbohydrates and a portion of protein, and then mix in greens intermittently. So when I say a portion, I mean like maybe the size of your fist or the size of a deck of cards. It's been a good analogy I've seen. 5 to 6 ounce piece of meat, half a cup to a cup of oats or brown rice or yams or whatever. And if you can manage that 4 to 5 meals a day, you're going to get in plenty of calories, you're going to get plenty of nutrients, plenty of carbs, plenty of protein. You're going to recover, you're going to replenish, you're going to grow, you're going to progress. And that's all I would say. It's not so much breakfast as much as just making sure throughout the day you're getting adequate nutrients, and they come in the forms of carbs, proteins, and fats. Fat's something you're going to get naturally from meat. It's already there, but you can also supplement with like healthy fats like almonds. I love nuts. I'm not an oil fan because I don't feel like a tablespoon of oil, the 200 calories it has in it is the same as a handful of almonds that has 200 calories. So I'd rather just get the almonds. But healthy oils are great. Olive oils, omega-3s, even coconut oil, it's delicious, and it's got some really cool health effects. I mean, it's obviously real popular right now. So that's basically it.
And then I've seen before on your videos you eat a lot of chicken breasts. Do you eat those throughout the day, or do you eat those more in the evening? What's your story on chicken breast?
Chicken has just been my go-to because it's compartmentalized, it's small, I can fit it in a Ziploc bag, it's easy to measure, it's easy to cook, it's relatively inexpensive. I would say I eat 3 to 4 a day, eggs in the morning, and then in the evening I either have a piece of fish or eggs again, or a piece of deer or elk or whatever. The problem with deer and elk during the day, and most people know this, is, if it's in a cooler, red meat's not very appetizing. But if I'm home, it's always my first choice. Like, I always will eat deer or elk every time. I mean, if I'm home and I have time to prepare it or put it on the stove, I would much rather eat that than, some garbage chicken from Walmart. Unfortunately, I'm on the road or I'm moving around a lot, and I just don't have that I'm not able to do that. So I eat as much of my organic animal meat as I can, usually in the evenings when I'm home and calm and chilled out. But during the day, chicken breast is just the go-to. Just put my Ziploc bags in my cooler. And, one thing with dieting especially is you've got to plan your meals. And it sounds like a pain in the butt, but, if you have the food there, you're going to eat healthy. If you don't, you're going to make bad, poor decisions. And just like a budget, if you get rid of all your credit cards, you'd be amazed how much you don't spend. If you live on a cash-only budget, you're like, man, I don't have any cash left in it. The 20th, I guess I can't buy any more garbage. The same thing with food. If you have your food with you and you say, that's my day, when someone offers you at 12, hey, come, you want one of these brownies? And you say, no, I'm sorry, I don't actually. Thank you, but I've got my food with me. And I've been just chastised for years about how socially awkward I am, because I'll go to dinner sometimes and I don't buy food. I don't care. I mean, I don't need to eat. But I already ate. I ate at 5:30 at 6:15. I'm not hungry. I don't want to spend $20 on a salad that I can make at home for $3. And so, I may be antisocial and weird, but I'm just very unemotional and very logical about my food choices and my eating. And I feel like it's worked for me, so I'm not going to change it anytime soon. But definitely prepare your meals, carry them with you. Should always have food with you so you don't make poor decisions.
That's good stuff. Specific question about, you mentioned salads. Obviously, you probably are making salads with spinach salads with, chicken or salmon or some sort of fish on it. What dressing, or do you use any dressing at all? Is there something specific out there that, you can get a little bit of taste out of, but, isn't bad for you?
One thing about, you said salmon. Salmon actually is a very oily, very moist fish, especially if you prepare it properly. I like to pan-sear salmon because you get a nice crust on it and it preserves a lot of the moisture inside of it. And if you break that salmon up in your salad and just swirl it around, it actually will saturate the salad with the juices and the aromas and stuff. So a really moist meat like salmon is the one that's a really good one with salads. I also like ground turkey because even after it's drained, it's still very moist. There's a lot of water content in it. That stirs in well. So for me, wet or the moistness is kind of the key with the dressing. That's the whole purpose of it. So I try to just use the meats in general, but I love to season food with lemon juice. Lemon juice has no calories, delicious, obviously has a great flavor profile, and it's inexpensive. It's easy to, stores forever. So I love to cut up half of a lemon and sprinkle that on the lettuce. I love cracked pepper. You'd be surprised, even with the chicken breast, if you dice up the chicken breast, put a few tablespoons of lemon juice and some cracked pepper in your lettuce, it's actually very appetizing. There's also vegetables that provide really good moisture and flavor. Tomatoes are awesome. You get a tomato, you dice it, pico de gallo, the onions, all of that stuff. There's no calories in pico whatsoever. It's lime juice, onions, tomatoes, and garlic. But the flavor is amazing. So, I use stuff like that.
So in other words, no on the salad dressings, Jay.
There's just no point, Jay. This is why. It comes down to a budget to me. A tablespoon. You've got to see, you guys have got to learn this. Look at a tablespoon. Go and look at your wife's stuff and say, let me see a tablespoon. Look at that and see how much dressing fits in there. That's usually 150 to 200 calories. 200 calories is it's like most protein bars or a chicken breast. I mean, there's so many things I would rather eat or spend, quote unquote, 200 calories on than just a spoonful of oil. I don't see the point of salad dressing. I just don't see it. Now, if you don't want to eat chicken breast in an hour and you'd rather use your calories on that, again, budget your calories into that dressing, go for it, but you got to measure it and you got to stay on top of it because it's calorically dense. Super, super. I mean, a tablespoon of dressing doesn't go very far. Most salads, the lettuce, the tomatoes, the chicken breast, everything on it, all of that combined doesn't even add up to the caloric value of 1 tablespoon of oil. And so when you understand that, you'll start saying, man, what can I do to substitute? Because this doesn't make any sense at all.
That's great stuff. Now, you said that app is MyFitnessPal. Is that what?
Yeah.
PAL? Okay.
Correct. Under Armour owns it. It's an Under Armour app.
Okay. I'll have to check
free.
into that.
Yeah, just get the free one. You'll just start playing with it. You'll figure it out. It gives you meal times and what did you eat at 10? What did you eat at 11? What did you eat at 12? And when you just enter it in. And if you can't find it, you search for it and you say, Carl's Jr. small fries. There it is. Oh, put that in there. You can eat garbage on that thing and still stay under your caloric needs. That's one of the things that's cool about it. You could actually eat a pizza at 10 o'clock every morning of your life and eat 1,500 to 2,000 calories and then not eat the rest of the day. You'd be in great shape. I think you'd feel better if you spread it out and ate whole foods throughout the day. But the bottom line is your budget would be in check. You would have money left over. You know what I mean? You essentially, the calories are the same. I just like to eat more than just once a day, and so I've got to spread them out and be a little bit more calculated. But that's kind of what it helps you accomplish. And it gives you a lot of flexibility. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's say you've eaten 2,000 calories, and your wife wants to run and grab a burger. Well, you're like, okay, I got 1,500 or left or 400 left, whatever. If I eat a hamburger, I'm done. But then, I won't eat again after 5, but I'm going to swap that hamburger out. You can do that. That's why it's cool. But at least and you're accountable to where the calories came from and that you didn't go over the top.
Well, there you have it. I appreciate that advice. That's good stuff, and I'll check out that app. Really appreciate having you on again. I know guys are going to get a lot out of this episode, and just wish you the best here for your summer prep and getting ready for your fall seasons. So what do you have other than your Arizona elk tag? Are you going to do any OTC stuff, or what do you got on the agenda?
Yeah, I'll hunt Utah general deer. I'll have general elk tag in Utah, and I'll probably do the same in Idaho. Try to pick up a landowner tag in Colorado this year for rifle, the 3rd season tag. I'm looking at a lot of options. I want to buy one, so that's going to be my go-to hunt. I didn't draw any premium tags, and I like to have one, just slammer hunt a year. So hope we can stir up a landowner tag and get out to Colorado later in the year. But right now it's just looking like a very average year, just general tags and a lot of days in the field and probably not a lot of success. But, some of those seasons are the funnest. So I'm not even remotely discouraged. It's just it's the hand I'm dealt. I've got to play with a pair instead of a full house, but doesn't mean I can't bluff and win, or you know what I mean? You just take your cards and run with them. So, but your tag's amazing. That's a great unit. That's the history there. I mean, I'm jealous as hell. You're gonna have a great time, and I can't wait to see what you come up with in your footage. And you're gonna hammer it. They don't know what's coming.
It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and I always enjoy elk hunting for sure. And it's took 16 years to draw the tag. Ironically, with one non-resident tag available, it goes completely random. So it's fortunate that I just drew it in a completely random pool. I thought for sure I would probably be hunting the Boulder or the Monroe or Southwest Desert. I just put in for the one tag, not expecting to draw it, and I drew it. So pretty stoked about that. Certainly going to try and push myself to try and find the best bull that I can and enjoy the hunt along the way. So I'm excited. So, Zac, I want to give you a chance for those listening. How do they find you? I know you've got a lot of great resources, so make sure you give the plugs where people can watch you and find you and follow you. If you don't follow Zac on Instagram, you need to, and also his YouTube channels. He's got some great stuff, so go ahead and tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, it just sounds narcissistic and silly, but I just use my name for everything. So my website's zacgriffith.com, my Instagram's Zac Griffith, my name is just ZACGRIFFITH. It's pretty easy to find with Google or whatever. I do. I got a lot of YouTube content that I put out. My wife and I have our own channel about our relationship and her learning how to hunt and some of the fun things that we run into. So it's a little bit lighter side of my life, but I'm definitely engaged heavily in social media. So, if you're looking for content, it's there. Whether you like it or not, that's just a different subject. So.
Well, it sounds good, buddy. Take care. I'm glad you were able to come on today and share with us, and I look forward to our next conversation. So sounds good, okay?
Yeah, thanks again, Jay. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, buddy. God bless. I'll talk to you later.
Likewise. Take care.